Well, hello and welcome back to Northern Disclosure, where me and the lovely Janine Turner bring you through the series Northern Exposure. And each week we cover a different episode, and this week we are on to Season 3, Episode 13, which is called Things Become Extinct. And it was written by Robin Green and Mitch Burgess. Actually, it's interesting. First of all, hi, Janine. How are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Rob?
Good. You look fresh and full of alacrity.
Alacrity. I've always loved your vocabulary, Rob. We're both writers.
So this was an interesting credit. You don't see this a lot. Rob, the story was by Mitch Burgess, and who we've had both Mitch and Robin, who are a couple on the show, and the teleplay was by Robin Green. Teleplay is almost an antiquated term at this point.
I've never seen that, and I've never seen that in this show.
It's old school. It was like from the 50s and 60s they called it teleplays, but now it's screenplays works for everything because it's all screens. This show aired January 20th, 1992.
Wow.
And I really liked watching it. It just, it's funny. Janine and I were talking early before we came on the air here about how we both remember shooting this episode, which is unusual. Usually neither of us remember exactly shooting it. Certain moments will pop out, but like I remember going and watching some of these scenes that I wasn't in, and it was very palpable, the feeling of being there.
Well, it was very palpable. And I think that as I watched it, it was just one of those episodes that stayed. You know, we did over 110 episodes. It was one of those episodes that is emblazoned in my memory because it was powerful. It was powerful. And I was thinking about it, Rob. You know, this episode was character driven. And most of our episodes are character driven. We have one coming up, Democracy in America, that I think was more story driven.
Oh, interesting point.
Just so different when it's story driven because we don't have as much to hold on to. And I think in a way Sicily too was story driven. And so it kind of but when it's character driven, it's like everything's full heart, full throttle, whether it's comedy or just, and I think that because this show was so character driven, it was rich. It was really rich and very touching.
I agree. And our guest, who we'll bring on in 1 second, is someone who I'm a huge fan of. I mean, from the minute he showed up on the set, I felt a kind of simpatico. And when I started, I watched all the dailies, and so when I watched the first days of rushes, I could just sense that he had a really nice eye and a great touch. And I can't remember if he made a short film that won the Academy Award called The Appointments of Dennis Jennings with Stephen Wright, and I guess he must have given it to me. I can't imagine I watched it before he came on the show. He must have given it to me, and I just was I've never forgotten that film. I mean, I've seen a zillion shorts, but that one sticks in my mind. And, he went on to do so many things. I mean, he did another well-regarded short film called Tom Goes to the Bar with the great Tom Newton, which won the Golden Berlin Bear. But then he went on to he directed Galaxy Quest. Do you remember that movie? Mm-hmm, I mean, yes. It's a kind of a masterful parody of sci-fi television. He did Bill and Ted's Face the Music, Charlie Countryman with an interesting cast. I hope maybe we'll talk to him about that. But he's had this extraordinary career, and he's directed so many great television shows, from Masters of Sex to Justified to Modern Family, Curb Your Enthusiasm, ER, and he directed, as we said, 3 episodes of Northern Exposure, 2 of which are coming, the one we're going to talk about today, and 2 of which are coming up in the 4th season. But he's a really cool guy, and I guess without further ado, unless you want to say anything else, Janine.
Yeah, no, and he just flew in from Korea and hasn't had any sleep, so we feel very flattered.
Hey, Dean.
This will help.
There you go. What does that say? What does that coffee cup say?
I don't know. What does it? I just grabbed Abbey Road.
Abbey Road. Cool.
We did a score there.
What were you doing in Korea? Were you working or vacationing?
Well, I had a little thing I did a little workshop thing at with a friend of mine at the Tokyo Film Festival, which was an excuse to then go on a vacation. So we went through Japan and then Korea.
Oh, how great. Was it amazing?
It was fantastic. It's my first time. Have you guys been?
I have not been to Japan, and yet it's high on my bucket list because I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. I mean, I'd like to believe it, but I can't find any scientific evidence that gives me enough. But if I were to believe in reincarnation, I would say that I was Japanese in another life.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
I don't know why, but that's the way I feel. So
can I just say it's great to see both of you guys? It's been a long time, and I miss you both.
Miss you too. It's great to see you, Dean. It was, and I echo what Rob said. It was always a joy working with you.
And a pro and someone who has it's interesting because in television, a lot of times when a director comes along that's I'd say you have visionary, you're a visionary. The way you see the world is visionary. And when directors come into TV shows that are established, they often bump up against the establishment because they don't want to change the thing. They don't want to change what is. And yet you were able to come on the show and put your stamp on it. There was just moments, and there's not a lot of set pieces in this episode, but there's just these moments of, I think instead of the set pieces, you just kind of went into, as Janine was saying earlier, into the characters and into what was going on. And those were such moving moments. In particular, we were talking about the end of the show.
No, the credit goes to an incredible cast. I mean, you guys were unbelievable, and you took it farther than the page, and that's a real that's the biggest compliment I can give, because I hadn't seen the show in years. I just went back and saw it, and I was like, oh my God, I loved this show. I forgot all about it. It was because it dealt with it dealt with character and theme in a way that television hadn't before that, and also the sort of angst and emotional dilemmas of my generation, your generation. You guys are younger than I am, but it's uncommon. You don't find it now, really.
And how about it that it doesn't look dated? Isn't that the craziest thing, right?
Well, it's because it's the Outback. It's because we were dressed. So if you were to go in the Outback today, everybody would still sort of be dressed that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it somehow holds up.
Well, and the producers were very, very, very. And Rob, we didn't talk about a few weeks ago. You had on that baseball hat, and I remember the producers did not want you to wear that baseball hat, and you really wanted to wear that baseball hat. So you got away with it in one episode.
No, I ended up wearing it a lot. Once the dam broke, there used to be this thing in television where they didn't want the actors wearing hats or sunglasses. It was the most ridiculous. I had to fight to wear sunglasses on the show as well. And I just was like, I'm out in the tundra. The sun is beating my eyes. Any normal person would wear sunglasses. And they had this thing against it. But nowadays you can get away with it.
The wider point I'm making is just they didn't want anything trendy, that looked trendy or that looked American. They just wanted to kind of always remain a bit anonymous in the way our costumes looked and whatnot. And I think that was smart, because that's because now it's timely. It holds up against time, I guess I should say. Right. And Dean, I think it's amazing how you directed in such a way that it just flowed, and the story was told in such a passionate, sensitive way. And yet your camera work was superb. The directing was superb. But it just, sometimes, the camera gets in the way and you become really obvious that wall's been broken, because the camera becomes the star, because it moves or does whatever. Your directing was just sort of smooth. Talk about and there was that beautiful scene in the, where they were making where they're making vodka. And, I think my greats in the Outbacks in Texas made barleycorn. John Barleycorn is what they call it. I don't know what does corn make? What liquor does corn make? What is that?
I guess moonshine.
It's moonshine.
It's like pure. It's just like grain alcohol.
It's like gasoline. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess this was 100 proof what Holling and everybody were drinking. So I guess that's kind of similar. But in that scene too, the light was coming through in such a beautiful way, a kind of rays of light behind them in the still, as we called it. But tell us some of your thoughts about directing the show.
Well, it's odd because if I had just come on the show and not seen it, I wouldn't have remembered. But as soon as I started watching it, all this stuff started coming back. That particular scene, I had seen Blood Simple with the bullet holes coming through the wall with the light, and there are other European films where people in barns always, the light's coming from the outside, and if you smoke an environment, it looks beautiful. But also, I think for that character at that moment, he's kind of buried himself in this place, right, where he feels safe and protected and can just get raw. And I think that probably helped. I can't remember everything. I remember, I basically love the show, and I love character-driven pieces, right? To me, everything starts from character. And great stories are character stories. And you guys did that every week.
Let's give a little backstory about what we're talking about for the audience. Holling is having, there's multiple midlife crises going on in the show. It's actually, and this is unusual for Northern Exposure, it's thematically sound. All the stories kind of are thematically connected. And Holling is having a midlife crisis at 63 years old because his family has longevity and he will live to 120 in theory. And he gets a letter that Janine, Maggie, brings in the top of the show telling him his Uncle Charlie, which I know must have some kind of a reference to Uncle Charlie on My Three Sons, which was a show that was on when we were kids. But Uncle Charlie died, and it throws him for a loop about his own mortality and what is he accomplished or not accomplished. And he kind of detaches himself from his world and from Shelley, and he goes to a still that he has in the bush, and he kind of goes on this bender and this self, mining exploration of himself.
But then John Corbett is having a midlife crisis at whatever age, at 22, I guess, or 20, because he thinks he's going to die in his 40s.
Right. He talks about that he went through his when he was 22.
That's it. Yeah. He went through his when he was 22, lost a whole year because his parent, the male line in his family only lived to be in their 40s. And then Rob, you're having sort of a midlife crisis because you can't find.
Absolutely.
So it was really thematic in that regard.
And I love when Chris talks about when Holling says, "Oh, well, you went through your life's going to end in your 40s because of your your genealogy," and Chris just takes it in stride. He's so zen, like he's just like, yeah, so I went through my midlife crisis, and it's like he's going to die soon. Like that character fascinates me.
Do we know what poem that was? It's a great vehicle, his character. They can do anything they want with that character.
I think it might have been Yeats. I can't remember.
Yates? No, he says who it was.
Oh, it's Dante. It's Dante writing of his own midlife crisis, which is this story is defined by confronting one's mortality. It's 14th century. And he says, then he adds to it, says, we look behind us. This is beautiful writing. And this is Robin. Robin Green really she's a bit of a poet too, Janine. We look behind us to see how far we've come. We realize our past isn't a solitary trail through secret woods, but a vista, big and expansive as the ocean itself, with our experiences stretching to the horizon like sailboats sucked up into the enormous sea.
Wow.
Right? I mean, that sums it up, man.
That's Northern Exposure right there.
Right there. That's Dante's Inferno right there, that book.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
I better go back and read it again.
I just read it recently. It's such an amazing story.
It's great because it's also about loss and about coming to terms with your lack of accomplishment or the things that you hoped you would do the thing we always imagine we're going to do or be is never what we end up doing or being. And especially for Holling, I thought he's reached that spot where he doesn't feel like he's done anything. And and what I love about the ending and what I loved about that scene in general was that what he realizes in that moment is that that the love of another person, that love is what he's done, what he's accomplished.
So beautiful.
And that even though I'll admit I'm watching the end of the scene and I remember setting up the staircase and thinking, is this over the top? Am I going too far with this? Because there is a little bit of, it's a little ambiguous. Are they going to heaven? Are they going, I kind of felt like I might have pushed it too far. I don't know. What do you think?
I thought they were just going upstairs to love on one another.
I mean, I saw it coming as soon as I saw the stair, all of a sudden we cut to the side view and I'm like, okay, they're going up there. But I thought, I think it supported it. It didn't feel like gratuitous or anything like that. And it was it needed something to button it. That was such a great, the performances all throughout that scene. We're talking about the final scene of the episode where Shelley, having discovered that Holling played with hand puppets as a kid, Shelley puts on a puppet show for Holling, just showing him his whole journey, and I think what Dean said is true. It triggers in him. I guess there's something about seeing your own life. I mean, if you can see your life, maybe you appreciate it. And she kind of recreates it for him.
She's declaring her love to him and saying that this is worth everything. And to me, it brought back a memory of talking to John about this before the scene and talking about loss and the trauma of that and how how you repair yourself, from that. And I think he really was going. I was watching it this time. It's a very strong performance. I think he's going through some loss at that moment, and I can't remember if there was if we talked about some kind of memory that he could dish up, or I can't remember, but I do remember us doing a few takes and then it getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, the tears in his eyes were so moving. And you know what else, Dean? I wonder what you. I'm sure you had some impact in this too, as a knowing that it's character driven and working with actors and characters. It was interesting to me to watch how when he first started drinking that 100 proof vodka, you know what I mean? It didn't really show that much in Holling, but then it did. And as it went on and on and on, you saw him get more inebriated and more inebriated and more inebriated. And he played that so beautifully. It was just perfect. And I know, do you have any memories of that? Because I know there's, for people that are listening, there's just this great, if you're working with a wonderful director that appreciates actors like Dean does, and we are actors who we're so lucky to work with a wonderful director like Dean, there's just a harmony that starts to happen where you nurse the best out of both worlds. And you can kind of nurse that trajectory of inebriation. Did you talk to him about that? Do you remember that at all?
I don't. I mean, in general, what I love doing is you're looking at something that's building to a crescendo, right? You're also looking at emotions that the easy thing is to show it all, but people don't do that. They do this. So they're trying as hard as they can not to indicate that there's something wrong. And when you finally do blow, it's because you can't keep it in anymore, And that progression in a performance is a beautiful thing to see. I mean, you guys did it all the time. So, you guys are instinctively starting small because you're going someplace emotionally, and that's that. I think that's what makes something strong too. Is we're all like that. We don't want to cry. We don't want to show emotion. We don't want to let it out. But I also, there's another side of Northern that I forgot about, which is the absurdity, and playing those moments, throwing them away, and not going, look, we're funny.
Like, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about Northern in general, moments like hair of the dog. First of all, great spit take. So hard to do a spit take. Great spit take. But it's like, it's thrown away. You're not going, look, I'm funny. You're
it's
going,
great.
You're committing 100%. It's life. This happened in the room. We're not making a joke.
Yeah.
Playing it straight. And in that context, the audience finds it hysterical.
Yeah. It's the comedy of the human condition. So that's when Marilyn says, I come in hungover because I go to rescue Holling from his despair, and he ends up kind of pulling me into it. And I go down the hole and get drunk, and I come back the next morning, and Marilyn gives me, and I'm like, I'm so hungover, and she gives me something to drink, and she says hair of the dog, which is what people say. And Joel's like, good idea, thinking he's going to be drinking some vodka or something, and he's like, what is it? And she's like, hair of the dog, like literally hair of the dog.
Literally hair of the dog.
Well, I liked that moment when Elaine showed up at the still and said, it's time.
Oh, isn't that great?
Mm-hmm. And of course, I guess once the story played out, probably Cynthia, Shelley sent her there. But at that moment, it felt so sort of ethereal, just sort of, she's like, it's time. And he believed her. She came with her sort of, sensory ability to say, it's time to stop. It's just time. And I don't know that anybody else could have reached Holling except her with that sort of kind of great mysticism that,
and had. Gravity, like I don't know, I think Dean probably got this out of her. She just had a kind of weight that we hadn't seen, authority that we hadn't seen.
Yeah, you're done. It's over, right? It's there is that tradition in a lot of religions and spiritual lives where you're done grieving, right? Your time is up, right? Because if you keep going, your self-loathing is just destructive, right? And you have to go through it, but there's also a moment where, okay, that's enough. You have to buck up and go out there and face the world again.
Buck up. Right. My mother used to always say that to me as a kid. Buck up. Just buck up.
Buck up, right?
Yeah. Someone told me recently something about grieving that I thought was really kind of profound, that grieving is the price that one pays for love.
Yeah.
It just sounded so succinct.
I guess that sort of self absorption, thinking about himself is part of that grief.
Right.
It's almost kind of it's too hard to comprehend that someone's died and where are they and where have they gone and they're never here anymore. So you sort of imbue it into other areas of your psyche and your soul. So it's almost sort of, it's a substitution. It's just, I don't know where to put this, so I'm going to put it on myself.
Huh. Interesting.
The 7 Stages of Grief, I guess is a book out there.
Right. Is it 7 or 5?
I don't know, 5, 7, 11.
I don't
know.
I think it's 5, the traditional one.
I thought it was 7. Yeah. Okay, well, 5.
Look it up. But who we haven't spoke about yet is Ira Wingfeather, who played by Bryson Liberty, and that story.
Oh my God, he's so good.
Where did he come from? Did we know?
It was a casting session, but I don't remember. I remember the casting session, but I don't know where he came from. Sorry, I don't. I remember I was going to try and bring in another actor I knew who wasn't available, and I don't know where. But do you know Gary Farmer?
That sounds familiar.
Powwow Highway. Anyway, a long time ago, but he reminds me of him. But he was so wonderfully open.
Genuine, yeah.
Just genuine. It was fantastic.
There was something about him that made you believe he was from old Hollywood. he kind of had those long legs and that kind of John Wayne thing going on. Yeah, I believed wholeheartedly, and that's why casting is so amazing, that he was from those Hollywood days.
I agree, and I also believe that he was making those flutes. Like, and you can tell when actors are kind of like, faking it or something. But like, I thought like, well, maybe this guy really did make flutes, and that's how they found him or something. Like, he just, like, when he was carving it.
Was that someone else carving? Did you get someone else to come in and carve?
No, that was him. That was him. Everything was him.
Wow.
But I mean, obviously, props made a bunch of them in different states, but that was him carving them, and it's also great that I love what happens to Ed, where at first he's making a movie, which is what he loves to do, but then he realizes this will be lost forever unless he learns how to do it, which is a great way to end that little story.
Well, to keep something from becoming extinct.
Right.
And I don't think enough of that is passed on today. I remember my great grandmother crocheted. My grandmother taught me how to sew and embroider and things of that nature, or paint or poetry or whatever it may be. We just have lost. I was thinking about it. Northern Exposure. What I glean from Northern Exposure is the opportunity for people to think for themselves. They're out there in nature. They feel they're in a community. They think for themselves. We are in an environment today where we are allowing other people to think for us. What are they saying on Instagram? What are they saying on the 24 cycle news? What are they saying? It's like we're so inundated. It's like we don't have enough time to just be in nature and think for ourselves. And I'm struck about Northern Exposure being out there in the middle of nowhere. People have a chance to just think for themselves. Does that make sense? You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. And also finds out, like, I love the story about that he tells about how one would find the song for their flute, by going into the wilderness, kind of like what you're saying in a way, Janine, and fasting until the song came to them, like taking that time, that I love these things, these stories that the show traffics in. And also, by the way, I think that's when they say, he used the phrase "things become extinct," which we rarely have the title within the story. Someone referenced the title, which I thought was interesting.
One of the great things about Northern is that it was non-judgmental.
That's the way Josh described it. Yeah,
and that those characters are, the collection of characters, like the collection of people almost. It's changing now, maybe that we're becoming a little too homogenous, but to celebrate all the eccentricities of all those people, to forgive them for the things that bother you, because there's some things that are wonderful that you wouldn't know, or that you learned, or that you love about them. To see a collection of people like that is to be human. I would say that Northern might be becoming extinct.
You mean the genre?
Yeah, it's a tone that's very hard to do, but it's also a very smart writing, where you've got all these different points of view, but no one is actually coming to a conclusion. They're all going through this discussion of what these things are. Midlife crisis is this one, but you guys touched on a whole lot of topics that were culturally important to us at the time, that we were all wrestling with, and it managed to do it in a way that wasn't political. It didn't take sides. It didn't do any of that. It presented people who are all different, having these things happening to them, and these feelings and these ideas that are being presented. And I think it was unique, Northern. I can't think of anything else like it.
You're right. And it's funny because Janine and I were talking at the top of when we first got on before we went on the air, about, we were trying to remember how Joel's story resolves in this particular episode, and we couldn't quite figure it out. And I think because maybe you remember the specific, but it doesn't really resolve it just kind of what and I think to your point is that a lot of these storylines and a lot of the characters, it just has to take them to the next point of moving forward in life, which is a great, my favorite story stories are ones that don't take characters to a conclusion, but take them to the point of change. I always think of Warren Beatty in Shampoo. He's this fucked up character, but he gets at the end, he's on this precipice, literally looking out over his existence, and he can't go back to the way he was. You don't know if he's going to figure it out, but he can't go back.
He can't go back.
And I think you get that sense with Holling in this, and with Ed and with Joel.
And I think for your character, Rob, it was probably an awareness. You were just sort of aware, like, wait, there aren't as many of us as I thought, and I'm more alone than I thought.
Right. He says he's the only Jew in Arrowhead County, which has like as big as Wyoming and 1,400 people.
That sounds like a short story or something.
That's funny.
Oh, I hate to segue, but I saw the 3 episodes that I directed because I don't go back and look at anything, and it's been forever. Janine, you're in Northwest Passages. You're fantastic in that episode. There's that whole thing with your boyfriends who have all died. It's hysterical, and I wish it was in a movie. It's a fantastic scene. They're all angry, and you're kind of like completely flummoxed by what's happening to you at this moment, even though you sort of know you're hallucinating. It's fantastic.
Well, you'll have to come back for that episode then, because that was a lot of fun. I remember that episode very, very, very well because it was so unique.
It was a great episode. I remember it too.
Oh, I remember casting Patrick Warburton. You remember Patrick?
Yeah, he's a pal of mine, and we're going to try to get him on that episode.
Yeah, you should get him. He's hysterically funny.
Yeah, he was funny. Wouldn't it be great to keep your Christmas memories forever? Well, now with Aura Frames, you can. My favorite framed Christmas memory is of all of us, my entire family at Christmas, in matching PJs from the age of newborn to 90, because my mother has her family tradition. She's 88 now, but she would always buy, and still does, all of us matching Christmas PJs. Aura makes it easy to add any photo. Just download the app and connect to Wi-Fi. And every frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. So now for a limited time, visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code NORTHERN at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code NORTHERN. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends and support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Another weird coincidence, Cheryl Block just called me with a project she wants that I love. Do you remember her?
She was a real force on the show. I mean, she doesn't get the credit that she's due. It's amazing the people that really keep things moving. And she was able to kind of straddle so many lines and keep so many disparate types together focused. She really doesn't get her due. And
I went on to almost do a project with Josh too, but it as usual fell apart. But I haven't seen him in years either.
What was that?
It was a show called Dr. Dave.
Yeah, Josh is doing, although his wife just passed away recently, so I know he's dealing with grief. He was our first guest, and was so interesting. And what's so cool is that we've had a lot of the writers and producers now and all the actors, but when we hear about the behind the scenes, the machinations of how the show was run and how Josh really was, the engine. I mean, he really was the creative force behind the show, and was able to harness and kind of almost create a competitive. They were telling us that the writers had a competitive kind of thing where they were all trying to outdo each other, not in a a zero sum way, but to try to do something more interesting, and it created all these different wild storylines. And what I find fascinating is, like, so this is written by Robin and Mitch, who we've had on the show, and last week we had Jeff Melvoin, I think it was, or the 2 weeks before. But they're when you read them and you watch them, they stand on their own in distinction. Right? Their voices are different, and yet they still manage to become part of the fabric of the show and not feel like it's an aberration.
In a great collaboration, that's what happens, right?
I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
It was a strange thing for me to go back and look at it. I have to say, now what's going to happen is I'm going to go watch a bunch of them. But, I also remember a lot of, because I came out of that sort of independent world in New York in the 80s, and there was a lot of people coming through the show that came out of the independent world, not from traditional television. And to me, it always felt like it was filmmaker friendly.
Yeah, Frank Prinzi was out of the New York indie world. Jimmy Heyman, who was our first DP, New York indie world.
Frank shot the movie you talked about, the Stephen Wright movie.
Oh my God, there is a connection. Wow.
Yeah, so that was one of my questions for you, Dean. Just walking onto a set, I just remember being very, very smooth for you, and for us. But it's not always that way. But to walk onto sort of an established show, and then with a cinematographer that's established, talk about that correlation. Especially, we've talked about the actors, but with the crew and with Frank, and how looking for locations and props and all those things. How many days do you have of prep to really walk through these things? Is it a week? And you have to go look at locations, and then you meet Frank. And did Frank go on all the location scouts?
I wish I could remember, Janine.
I know, it's only been like 30 years.
There's a lot of water under the bridge here, but I think we had 7 or 8 days to shoot it, and I think we had a week or 2 of prep.
Same thing. It was 8 and 8. 8 to shoot it, 8 to prep it, and the DP would show up in the second half of the prep, to kind of sign off. But initially, the director would go out with the location scout and producers, and then they'd kind of decide what they want, and then they'd bring the DP toward the end. We didn't have, what now is most shows have rotating, unless I guess if they're 8 episodes, they don't have to worry about it. But if they're big orders of episodes, they have rotating DPs. Yeah, and so they would rotate. Back then the DP was wall to wall. I don't know how they did it. They just would never end.
Yeah, it was hard work. I think as I recall, Frank kind of showed his nerves somewhere around Northwest Passages.
That was the first show of episode 4. Season 4. I think that was.
The first show.
I think so.
There's a lot of pressure in television to make that schedule, because it's not easy, and especially back then, we're hoisting film cameras and big lights because you needed enough exposure to get the film to be to look the way it did.
Right
now with digital and with the ability of those cameras to see into darkness in the way they do, and LED lights, everything is much faster. But there was a lot of, you're hoisting a lot of equipment and heavy cameras back then. It was old school.
Dean, what's your feeling on film versus digital? Are you just wholeheartedly in digital, or do you feel a longing for the film days?
I love the way film looks. I can't help it. That's what I grew up on when I was younger, and the movies I loved. But the digital cameras have gotten so good, and it's so easy to manipulate them. But the best of both worlds is to shoot film and then finish in digital, because then you get both.
I did my short film that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The problem now is that the film stock is so expensive, and the cameras are not really well maintained because they're ancient. and so it's much harder to pull off. But I, I, uh, I don't know how to answer that question because I shot in both. I also went through the visual effects from practical to complete CGI, right? So I went through that transition as well.
And you were a DP. I spotted on your IMDb at first. Yeah.
I wouldn't call me a DP, but I was when I left film school. I shot a lot of documentaries.
Where'd you go to film school?
NYU.
Is that where you knew Frank from?
Yeah. Well, after just a little bit afterwards. Yeah. Um, and so yeah, I shot for a little while. I shot a lot of documentaries, some kid shows, some soap operas, all kinds of weird stuff. But in the meantime, I was trying to get enough money to shoot my first short film.
The one that won the Academy Award. How can I see that?
That's the second one, I think. But I think you can get it online, probably.
I have no idea, actually. I haven't looked at that in 30 years either.
Janine, right? I'll send you the title. It's called The Appointments of Dennis Jennings, and that was the second one, the one that won the Academy Award. It was with Stephen Wright, and it's so fascinatingly interesting and distinct. And so's the first one, which is Tom Noonan. You remember Tom Noonan, Janine? Great actor you've seen. And I can't believe he wasn't on Northern Exposure. He'd be perfect to come on Northern Exposure.
Oh, he would have been great.
Well, I'll go on record as saying I like film better, and I like the lighting in film better. I am not a fan of the lighting these days on digital. I just think that doesn't have that depth.
There's a lot of good lighting, on TV now. You have to. There's stuff out there you can make.
If I see one more actor who has his back to the window, that's face is completely dark.
I know that's your pet peeve, but there's a lot of good lighting going on. You can make it look good. You can make it look filmic. Maybe not as romantic as what we remember, but it's pretty good. There's some great cinematography going on.
But it's also easier to be crappy. It's easier to be lazy and crappy and shoot because you don't really have to understand as the same thing. You don't. We used to call it a thick negative back then. It's a well exposed piece of work that is lit rather than just found, and you can get away with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, if you compare it to, say, Casablanca was on, I was just in the hospital again with my mom, and Casablanca was on, right? And Ingrid Bergman's eyes were lit in such a beautiful way, and she had those tears, and it was just so gorgeous. And what you say, I think, Dean, is true. There's just a laziness now. I've done projects where it's dark in the room. I'm like, where are the lights? Like, oh, we're going to do it in post. And they do it in post, and everything looks monochromatic. It just looks crazy. But it's a little bit of a lost art. Unfortunately, I know that it can still be done, but that whole kind of romanticism to lighting seems to be gone.
Yeah, it's obviously you apply the aesthetic, the artfulness of it is applied to what's appropriate to the story, right? So sometimes a documentary look is appropriate to a story, and sometimes you're telling something in a more stylized way, and it's not. So, but I just miss. There's some great DPs. I mean, Roger Deakins and people like that are phenomenal DPs, and those movies are digital. The last Blade Runner was Deakins. That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, is one of my all top 5 movies. I'll have to watch the new one. Is it as good as the first one? The new Blade Runner?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely not. But it's got some cool stuff going on. Cinematically, it's very cool. It's Denis Villeneuve.
He really hit his stride in the Dunes. I think the second Dune is fantastic.
That's true. Okay, I guess I shouldn't beat it up so much. I do have a question for you. When John Corbett was drinking with Holland and he got on his 4 legs like he was going to howl or something, was that your idea? Do you remember at all? Because that was really fun.
I don't remember. I wish I did. I know John would come up with lots of crazy stuff, but I can't remember. But you all did, by the way. Come up with crazy stuff.
That's a great point, Dean, because I think, there's something about, I call it the director's gaze, what you can tell when you've got a director that just loves to watch and gets so absorbed in what they're seeing. And when we as actors, we feel that energy coming through the either if you're watching from a monitor or in the old days when you have to sit by the camera, we feel that. The actors feel it. You feel like you're being seen, and that every little subtle thing you do is being acknowledged. And it's a really, it's comforting.
It's the most fun thing in the world when you start building a scene. For me, because I'm basically there watching this thing happen, and when it really starts to cook, it sails. It's like everything else is gone, and you're just focused on this performance, and that. To watch you guys to build a performance and to create an environment where it's safe to fail is also, I think, really important because it gives you the room to try stuff that you might not try. It's a difficult thing to collaborate, to figure out how you get all these people together who are all at the top of their game, giving everything to something. It's like what that feels like is addictive.
I love that, the freedom to fail. I really love that. Because I was trained that way. Take it as far out as you can, and you can always bring it back. But you got to get it full throttle. If you can get full, and that's what I was always trying to do. I was always trying to get full, right before action. You know what I mean? It's like, let me be full. And then once I know I have that level of emotional sort of fulfillment, then I can, when the action happens, I could start putting all the covers on it that needed to be there.
Yeah, you need to blow it out.
Yeah. And then you kind of cover it up with the layers. But if you're just starting with the layers and you don't have that kind of cooking underneath, it's not as dynamic, I don't think. But I love that freedom to fail. That's really
the thing about failing is when you have to trust the director to be willing to fail, because I remember, not so much as I'm older, but back in the day, you didn't want to do something that you felt you were going to look bad because you didn't know who was going to get their hands on that footage and what they were going to do with it. But when you've got someone like Dean, you just knew, okay, if he tells me to, jump up and down or get on the ground and howl, I'm going to do it, because if it doesn't work, he's not going to use it. And it's just it's a great thing.
Yeah. And we trusted you, Dean.
I don't know why. I don't know. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have trusted me at all.
Well, I know that freedom to fail must have been there because John Corbett got on those all fours. It's intimidating for an actor to suddenly talk about going all the way is to go out there and get on all fours. And I was thoroughly expecting him to howl.
I have a question for you guys. I remember this story. I don't know if I was doing it or somebody else was doing we're doing a car rig through town, and one policeman is stopping traffic and the other one gave us a speeding ticket. We're going 35 in a 25 zone. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of liked us. They had a love-hate relationship with us up there. There were certain of the police force that didn't want us there, and they didn't want to have to work for Hollywood. And but that's a great. That I gotta remember that.
There's a whole story in how the town dealt with it. I thought was. I also remember a story, and I don't know if this is true. I can't remember who told me that. They were going through a rough negotiation with some guy in the town who left all his equipment running that was on one of my shoots. Anyway, he left all his heavy equipment running on the street.
Oh, to bother us, right?
And that somebody wrote a script where the town burns to the ground and you all migrate to a different town, and left it in the drugstore by mistake, and it solves the problem.
I never heard that one. That's a new one to me. I feel like I've heard a lot of them, but that one's new. Wow.
What that would be, so we could switch towns?
No, because so that they would scare the town into thinking we were leaving.
Oh, and they'd behave themselves.
I hope no one's listening from the town.
Right. Well, the minute they think we're going to leave, I have a cinematic question because we were talking about Rob. I always remember when we were on the show, you liked it when directors watched us from the camera instead of watching on the monitors, because back then the monitors were not what they are today. Because a director, when he's really standing by the camera, can see the nuances. But I guess we've kind of progressed in such a way. How do you feel, Dean, about whether you're watching by the camera, which is kind of the old-fashioned way, or watching through a monitor? But now the monitors are much bigger and better.
They're better, but I have to say I've spent my life by the camera. So I'm always by the camera. I always have been. To me, it's different. What I will do is go back and check on the monitor after it's done. But also, there's more of an intimate, I guess, experience for me if I'm right there. And I will also look through the camera, which most people don't do anymore. But this might be just old school me, but I prefer being right there in the midst of the hurricane, not back in miles away.
But you know what? I just want to remember, Janine and I were talking about things we remember, and watching the show, I just remember there were so many months where we'd be in the rain or the snow, and we'd finish work, and this one had a lot of that dank cold, and I'm wearing, I can tell I'm wearing long underwear underneath my clothes, and that feeling at the end of the day of feeling like the cold is going right to your bones and you're never going to get warm again. I just remember for years that was a state we lived in.
It's true. It's that wet cold where you just can't get warm, right? It's like, so it's humid and cold at the same time. And you're like, why can't I get warm? No matter how many layers, I'm still free. Plus you're standing around, you're not exercising. So the blood isn't flowing. No, I'm surprised they didn't have to pry us off the grip stands because we're frozen. But but that also those mountains were beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That scene when Ed and I forget the character's name, but they're walking through the mountain in the background and the big open field, and they're looking for the trees with his tomahawk.
That's Ira Wingfeather. Yeah, I agree. It was beautiful. Just beautiful. Well, I think we're kind of running out of time, but Dean, we could, I think I'm with Janine. We bring you back and do it again.
Well, you guys are very sweet, but it was just I couldn't pass up the chance to see you guys again, and also seeing the show was just fantastic. I mean, you're now going to, as a result of this, I'm going to now spend way too much time revisiting all the episodes.
It's the best part of doing this is getting to watch them and then reconnect and reminisce. It's a real gift.
It's a happy place. Northern Exposure is a happy place. So
it was happy for me.
Yeah, it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling for the soul. It's fulfilling for the humor, and it just it was a gift for us all, wasn't it? Northern Exposure was a real gift.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was a gift. Yeah. You're right.
Well, thanks for coming on, Dean. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you guys, and cool podcast. Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Rob, always good to see you. And so we'll be back next week. And for now, from O'Connell and Fleischman, we're going to sign off and see you next
week. I think it should be Fleischman O'Connell.
In your dreams, Fleischman.
This is what I had to deal with right here.
Northern Disclosure is a production with Evergreen Podcasts and executive produced by Paul Anderson and Scott McCarthy for Workhouse Media.